Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. Are you a goofball that loves Giants football? If so, sit back and relax as we talk about the team that both excites and frustrates us so much. And now, here are your goofball hosts, Drew and Rob.
Welcome, fellow goofballs, to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. I am Drew, joined as always by...
I'm me, I'm Rob, and we're about to get some Hard Knocks talks in.
Oh, yes, it's a hard knock life for us.
Oh, MetLife, can you see me?
We're talking about the other Hard Knocks. So, yes, the only Giants podcast show that breaks into random musicals. As always, the Giant Goofballs. But yeah, guys, so we're going to talk about everything, what we expect to see, what we hope to see, you know, things we kind of picked up based on the clip they show with Shane Bowen, the things we picked up based on the trailer. There's a little bit out there we can guess. We can also go ahead and, of course, expect to take a look and see, you know, what we may or may not see based on what makes sense for the Giants to block. Because, again, the Giants are going to block some stuff, guys. They're not going to be like, let's just show everything. Like, that's not the way it goes. That's not the way, these guys do these things. So let's go over what we see and what we think we're to see, I should say, at that point there. Now, keep in mind, of course, the very first thing we had to mention is, of course, it's on 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this upcoming Tuesday here. So that's going to be on both HBO Live as well as also on the Max streaming service. So if you're like me and most people at that point and you've gone ahead and cut the cord, you still got the streaming there. And of course, there might be some, bootleg places that have it. I'm not going to name any names there, but yeah. Listen, if you really want to speak that bad, you'll find it. You'll find it. Just,
Apologies.
Don't you get us sued by the Discovery people, the HBO Discovery people.
Ramble.
They have very good lawyers. They own South Park. They need them.
Yeah.
All right. So first, let's get into the big one for me, at least. This is the one I'm probably the most curious about. Maybe I should have saved this for last. I'm saving the best for first. And I want to see if they show more on the Wink and Daboll saga. Because that alone could be a TV show. Like, I feel like I would watch that.
As the week turns.
Yeah. Like, the game of, the Game of Thrones Giant style here. Like, I want to see, like, do they show the issues that happened during last season? Because if you're going to show, what happened this offseason, to a degree, I think you're going to want to show what happened during the season. The fight with him and over McKinney, the whole 24 clipboard thing. And do they give us any insight to other things at that point that we didn't see as well or didn't hear about? But it's like, if you want the show to be for casual fans of the NFL, not necessarily just Giant fans, they're not going to be aware of this issue. So you're going to have to give some background, and who knows, like I said, what kind of, comes out along with that, and I'm really curious, do they show what really led to the split? Because let's be honest here, there's a lot of things we hear, there's a lot of rumors. Obviously, he fired some of his buddies, Daboll did, and Wink cursed him out of the office. We all know what happened there. But it's like, did one particular move make this, go away, so to speak, this relationship there? Was there a straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, there, that poor camel? Or was it really that cumulative effect of like, okay, like jab, 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 jab until you just kill it, I'm kind of curious which one it really was there. And, there's things they won't show in this, obviously. Again, there's things that don't make sense to show based on, what the Giants would not want out there. Like, I firmly believe that they wanted Wink to quit. Even though they said, we expect him back and blah, blah, blah. I think they wanted him to quit. And
yeah, but you can almost say, we want him back. Wink, wink.
Well, it's all go because if they, hypothetically, if he had quit, and it wasn't this arrangement between the two to mutually part ways, they don't pay him. And he can't just go to anybody else, because there was the concern of, what if he goes to the Eagles? I still don't understand the concern, but whatever, it was there. that's what they wanted. So I think they fired, Wilkins at that point to go ahead and make this happen, so to speak. But they're not going to admit that kind of stuff on the show. They won't do anything that makes the Giants look bad. Let's be very clear on that, guys. Right off the bat, they will not do anything that makes the Giants look bad.
They are going to throw dirt on everyone else but themselves.
I don't know if they're going to throw dirt on everybody else.
I think that
if they throw dirt, that shows what they think of that person.
Yeah, it would be cautious dirt.
Yeah, but again, if we have to take sides of that argument, and not just because we're Giant fans, I'm going to take Daboll's side because Wink had the issues in Baltimore as well. And I'm curious if they kind of reference
similar.
And there was issues in Baltimore. Now we have issues. We decided to part ways because that's just kind of telling you that whatever happened in Baltimore, which obviously we still don't have the full story on that, probably never will. This was kind of similar. Daboll, brought him in because he's an offensive guy. He wanted a guy who could truly run the defense. But Wink had the issues in Baltimore. We probably shouldn't have been shocked this happened at all. Looking back and considering what happened in Baltimore. But I think we gave him a pass because the Harbaughs, as a whole, kind of a reputation being difficult to deal with and hard-headed.
Yes, 100%. That's what we said once we hired him. Okay, who was it? We know Harbaughs. Like you said, we know the Harbaughs are hard-headed.
Yes, all of them.
Yeah.
How about the dad? The dad might not be. I don't know. He coached before our days were of living, basically. So it's hard. It's hard to really get into that part there. But like I said, I'm just curious. Do we learn information? And do the Giants make him look like the villain? Because if they purposely go to make him look like the villain, then that tells you what, the relationship is. If they go ahead and just go, no biggie at that point there, that's, just didn't work out. And that just tells you they're ready to move on. They don't care to bash him. Maybe it wasn't as bad. It's kind of fixed some of it now, But we'll see. We'll have to see what happens there. Now, the one that you could make the claim is potentially even bigger than Wink. Wink's situation is great for the drama. It's like its own TV show there, as the football turns. But the one that probably has the most relevance on this season here, the situation I'm most curious to see between current active New York Giants is actually Kafka and Daboll, which I don't think is talked about quite enough because of all the drama that happened with Wink. But I want to see these guys interact on video. And granted, they're going to know the camera's there, guys. It's not like Kafka's going to walk by like, hey, Daboll, you're a schmuck. I wish I wasn't here. That's not going to happen. Though it'd be hilarious if it did. They would definitely edit that out if that happened. But it's
like, oh, here's an eagle for you.
Yeah.
As I almost escaped the bird on the cam.
But, you look at the situation with, Kafka and you go, okay, he wanted to be a head coach elsewhere and did a couple interviews. That's perfectly normal in the scenario of somebody who's an offensive coordinator. You want to move up to the next level. But he also was interested in interviewing with the Seahawks for their offensive coordinator position. That's not so normal. And there was definitely the rumors that he wanted out. The Giants wouldn't let him out. Obviously, we made him the associate head coach, gave him a little bit of promotion, which probably came with a little bit of pay bump as well, to go ahead and kind of appease him. But the situation is still not good there between those two. I mean, all the rumors coming out of the OTAs and all were that Daboll was making the play calls, not Kafka. Again, Kafka was willing to do a lateral move just to get away from Daboll. You had the Jordan Ronan report there just last week about how all the coaches wanted out. So I'm kind of curious to read the body language of what happens between Kafka and Daboll. Because listen, guys, we've all known people who tried to act professional, work with people they didn't like. But it was pretty obvious, But
at the same token, you also got those people that are really good at hiding how much of a schmuck they think their boss is.
Yes. I mean, I've gotten away with it.
Oh, God.
No,
please don't be listening.
My boss is listening. He's a very nice guy who treats me fairly.
Yes.
And I deserve a raise. Anyway. But it's like
50% raise.
I feel like if you see things with Kafka that tell you can tell he's a little unsure or actually a little awkward, chances are Daboll and him, they're still, haven't been fixed at all in any way, shape, or form. He's just biding his time to leave there, so to speak. But if you see nothing, then that tells you nothing, because that's what it could be, is that he either everything's fine, or like you said, he's just that guy who's a good actor who just, you have no clue where he's at. I'll tell you this based on interviews. And again, I do a lot of work with as far as reading people and stuff like that, just the nature of the businesses I've been in over the years. He doesn't strike me as somebody who's going to have a poker face. He doesn't strike me at all at that, but he also doesn't strike me as a high emotion guy either. So, like Daboll, you knew exactly what he's thinking at all times when he's on that podium. He can't hide his emotions. Wink was the same way last year. Kafka, a little different. He's not that high emotional guy. So it's partially why I think, to be honest, we're not going to be able to tell. But also, again, I don't think the Giants would want it out there if they thought it was even at all, even 5% obvious that he hates Daboll. They would block that scene from coming out.
Probably.
It's just sad.
They might show some like intense situations, but I don't think it's like it would be like yes, intense, not intense.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
But I'm saying they might show that because it is at the end of the day also, as much as it's NFL, it's also partially reality TV, and like you're going with the best ratings out there. So like,
I can't imagine the Giants are going to be like, oh yeah, Daboll walks by Kafka and he just turns around and flips him off when his back is turned. Like, that's
no. I'm not saying that, but you might see like some disputes on some like offensive play calling. Like you might see a little bit of that, but it's not like, it might not be like the craziest thing, but it might be like that dramatized situation. Like, hey, why do you go left instead of right when you're supposed to run the ball to the left?
Yeah,
or to the right.
We'll see. Like I said, I think they're going to do this so pro Giants, it's not even funny, because of everything the Giants mean to the NFL. It's still one of the more storied franchises in the NFL, even if it hasn't been very successful in the last 10 years, So beyond the coaches, we got to talk about some players that left this past off season as well. The big one here, obviously, is Mr. Saquon Barkley himself there, because that's the biggest change off season wise. I feel like this guy was this guy who's a face of the franchise for us for the last few years there. So we got to find out, does this show give us any new info? And we talked about it with the trailer. The trailer kind of alluded to, it seemed like Joe Shane was on the phone there with Barkley, and it kind of alluded to the fact that he wanted him to do something. He kind of agreed to it. We don't know what that was. We don't, obviously it's a one-sided conversation that they didn't put Saquon on camera as well. But it's going to be kind of interesting to see if we get any more info on this, because I have to imagine the Giants will want to paint themselves in a little better of a light than they are in some people's eyes for not even offering Barkley a contract, supposedly, but at least by all current reports this offseason. I don't know if that's gonna come out that they did. I don't know if it's gonna come out that they told Barkley, hey, call us with your best offer so we have a chance to match it. And they just say, you know what? Sorry, nope, that's too rich for our blood. We don't know. We don't know what happened yet. So I'm kind of curious to see what kind of information comes out in this, because there's going to be info coming out. How juicy it is, I don't know. We're going to find out if it's a rare steak or a well done.
I feel like more like a well done steak.
I think so as well. I don't think it'll be that juicy. I think the Giants want Barkley to be one of those guys that can come back to MetLife later on and be cheered as he wears a suit and goes to the Ring of Honor or something like that. And I'm not even saying he's not going to be in the Ring of Honor. I shouldn't go that far probably. But at least a guy that you bring back occasionally to the stadium and people go, oh yeah, appreciate everything he did those years with us. I don't know how realistic that is considering he went to the Eagles. But I do think they have a lot of respect for him as a person and what he did for the team overall. So I'm curious. I'm kind of curious, because if they release that he didn't get him a chance to match, or they release that he didn't, keep in contact with him or do something he said he would do,
they're painting him in a limelight. Like they're painting him in a really bad shape. If that's
yes, and that tells you two things. One, there's bad blood between the two. And 2, they don't want him back. Even just to, go like this and wave to the fans at a halftime of a game or something like that, Like, there are guys that they have respect for that'll be with this organization forever, and we're talking like the Victor Cruzes, the, Amani Toomers, the Howard Crosses, the Carl Bankses, there's guys that aren't Hall of Famers, but they're Giants legends, and they keep them around because they want them around. I don't think Barkley is going to be in that category if you see anything negative whatsoever on the show, because that tells you exactly what they think of him and what that legacy is in their mind. So, all righty. We got one more here, guys, and then we're going to pay the bills. Ooh. And that's another loss we had here.
Ooh, Drew, you're atop the bills this week, huh?
I know. I'm on it.
Starting off strong.
That's exactly. I'll finish week. Don't you worry. I could make a joke there with that, but I won't. But we got another loss we got to talk about this offseason, and it's probably the biggest loss on this roster, to be honest. The Barkley loss is the one that got all the media attention, and these both happened
underneath the rug.
Yeah, I did to a certain degree. You're 100% right, because Barkley was the bigger name, but Xavier McKinney was definitely much more important to this team, in my own opinion, because he was going to have a longer career after signing this new deal. He plays a more premium position. Not that it's a huge premium position, but it's more premium than running back, which, of course, is just, barely beating kicker and punter at this point in the NFL, it seems. But he's a guy that I played literally every single snap, this past season there. And I'm curious what happened. So it's been reported that the Giants got a call from McKinney to match the offer the Packers gave him. And that, I believe, is true because I've heard it from a couple of different people. So I'm curious, before he took that offer, what kind of offer did the Giants give him? Did they do the same thing that it sounds like they may have done with Barkley, where they said, just bring us your best offer? Did they give him an offer beforehand? Did they try to re-sign him early? How did the conversation go when they declined to match that offer? Was it like, hey, sorry, we can't afford to pay you this much, but we would pay this much if you'd be willing to give us a little bit of a hometown discount? How was the conversation? Did they try to keep him at that point at all? Because
I mean, it might have been one of those pardons where it might have been one of the separations where it was kind of mutual, and that's how I feel like it might pan out. Like, the Giants obviously want McKinney to stay. He's a young, top 5 safety in the league, right? Top 4, right? That's where he finished.
Yeah, top 5 this past year, but maybe top 10 prior years, top 15. Depending, happened to be his best year, which is a great time to be a free agent.
Correct. So he gets this great deal from another organization that has a long history in the NFL, that has a great, deal with a lot of the players as well, where it's like, you go to New York, or you look at the media, like, you go to Green Bay, what else do they have out there?
Not much.
Not much. You got the Packers. The Packers isn't just limited to Wisconsin or
that's a national
whole area. Like, it's a national team. Like,
it's one of the top 5, franchises in the NFL right now. I mean, I hate to say it, but you got the Cowboys, which I hate to say it, but it is what it is. They are a national, force as far as their fan base. The Steelers, the Giants, the Packers, and I don't know who else you want to throw in there at Patriots. That point. Probably Patriots, just because of the recent winning, but you can throw in the Bears just as easily as well, even though they're not that good, but they have a huge fan base. The Raiders have a huge fan base,
Yeah.
But they're definitely one of the premier teams out there. But
so, I mean,
I'm not so sure. One thing you said, though, I'm not so sure the Giants want it back.
I mean, yes. I mean, he had the incident, like, bye week, breaks his hand, whatever. People get past that. People make mistakes.
No.
The thing is, but you look at it, like, you finish your, end of your deal. top 5, safety in the league. You're expecting to make this much amount of money. And when we had Shane come into this organization, what was his biggest thing? Freeing up cap space, not paying for different positions. So when he wants X amount, X going to give it to you, and Shane says, we want this amount, and we can't come to a mutual decision on like how we're going to figure this money out. Like, it may not have been a bad blood saying like, hey, listen, we can't afford to pay you because we need to clean this up for the team and an organization in general. Like, if you can make that money, make it elsewhere. It could have been one of those pardons.
I feel like the Giants wanted it to look like they wanted McKinney. I don't think they really did, because I just don't think it's a high valued position he plays in the NFL currently, which is weird because it's such a passing league. You would think it's a secondary position, but safety's just not. If for whatever reason, it's really just not. So do you want to spend that kind of money when you're having cap issues, or do you want to do things like go get a Brian Burns, try to fix the offensive line? We don't get some of those guys if we get
kept McKinney.
But you can make the claim that, okay, maybe we didn't get John Runyon, but we kept McKinney. It's not like it was like getting us 2 or 3 guys. I can see both sides of it. I think it's a risk either way. But like I said, my own personal opinion, I haven't heard anything to this. It's not like I have any inside knowledge as far as this. Just my own opinion. I don't think they wanted him. So I don't think they're going to talk that much about him in the show. I think it's more like, yeah, we lost him. Now we got to try to replace him. We're going to sign Jalen Mills just to give it a veteran leadership. They'll talk about that real quick, and that's probably it. I think they're going to kind of glance over McKinney because I don't think they want the fans realizing that they really didn't want McKinney. He wasn't like the ultimate fan favorite, but he was a respected player on that team by the fans, especially how he played last year. And Giant fans, we tend to get attached to the good players that we draft because, let's be honest, we don't draft that many that are good.
Few far in between.
Unfortunately, it's sad to say, but true. All righty, let's pay those bills real quick, Rob, and then we'll go ahead and go through some of the comments here. So I know, especially we started talking about Saquon, there's a good amount of comments here. So let's go through those in a second here. Pay those bills.
Enjoying the show? Looking for more goofball action? Consider a membership at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs. Memberships start at just $5 and give you additional goofball access. One-time support payments also available starting at just $3. buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs.
Oh, yeah. Let's get into the comments here. First up, John saying, is this live or is it Memorex? No, we are live. We are live. Rob put it into all the comments, including the sections that John was not in. Got it in Twitch. He's got it in Facebook.
Live.
So, as he also joins us in with It's a Hard Knocks Live. Let's see. John says, I want to see that part about Saquon. You give me your word. You're not going to give us. Yeah, there's a lot to be said on what that could be, John says, how would Wink be as head coach now? I think Wink thrown away his head coaching potential unless he goes back to the NFL as a defensive coordinator a year or two and just crushes it. I think he has a reputation now. I really do. I know some people are saying it's the Giants' fault and Daboll's fault because Daboll has issued other people, But in the end, nobody wanted Wink. Like last year, he's like getting interviews for head coaching jobs. There's some rumors he might have been one of the favorites even in Tennessee. Not Tennessee. Which one was it? One of the favorites? Sorry, Carolina was it? Regardless, one of them he was considered a favorite. But you look at the situation, you go, okay, here's a guy who's a favorite now, and then now the next year he can't even find a job as an NFL coordinator. That's a big fall from grace there. That's going to take some time to build that back up again. So, and he says, I think Wink is in Michigan as a defensive coordinator. Yes, he is. Deb says, one thought is that Kafka can't lose. If offense stinks, Daboll was the play caller. If offense is good with Kafka as assistant coach, he wins there too. I wonder to that second half to a certain degree. because if the offense is much better and Daboll's the one calling the plays, and that's common knowledge and people recognize and see that, that could hurt him. I feel like that could hurt him because you saw what happened in Arizona. That's the perfect, one to look at there in the second half when the Giants offense just went off. And everybody was like, oh my God, look, that was Daboll calling the play. He was hiding his mouth, and clearly he was doing it. He's so much better than Kafka is at calling plays, clearly, because we scored for half a game. Like, that's what happened. And Kafka's reputation definitely took a hit at that time period. He kind of gained it back later on throughout the season, but I don't know if that. I feel like that's got to hurt him in some way, shape, or form. It has to. Yeah. Now again, if the defense stinks, offense stinks. I mean, yeah, that's going to help him potentially because now you have somebody who is going to become a head coach because of his offensive play calling and offensive coaching, and he ain't getting it done. So we'll see. We shall see. John says we should do a Hard Knocks of Drew and Roberto. That would be like an episode of Sopranos. Wow. Is that
forget about it?
Is that because I'm Italian, John? Wow.
Who's the Jersey Boys?
I'm offended. Maybe it's because Rob was in The Sopranos. There he is, as you've seen in The Sopranos. Watch. Somebody one day is going to actually watch The Sopranos to see you in it. And they're going to be like, oh my God, it is that goofball in The Sopranos.
I recognize a big noggin anywhere. I also did not have a beard at the time.
Let's see. John says, whoa, Deb, you gig my brain going, she's messing with my mind. What are you? I'm just kidding. I'm not so sure what that was. Then Deb says, time will tell, John, is how it all shakes out. He gives a thumbs up. She says, I thought at the end of the season, Barkley agreed to get offers, then go back to the Giants, and it seems like that did not happen. We'll see, because you got to keep in mind as well, when they do a trailer is meant to entice people to watch.
Correct.
That was like the ultimate Giants cliffhanger for this offseason, because let's be honest, that was the biggest story probably this offseason. At least for some people. I mean, I thought that was in the top 5, but I couldn't care as much as I did about, Neighbors, keeping Jones, Burns. I thought that kind of stuff was more important. But, I think because of how long Saquon was there, it was just a huge story. They want a cliffhanger, I think, with that. I'm not so sure that in the end, Barkley doesn't come out squeaky clean in that whole thing still. And that's all it was, a way to try to get people enticed to watch. Because all the news articles the next day was, can you believe the phone call? Like, that's what it was. We don't know still that conversation. They didn't show the whole thing. So we'll see. John says, he said they never offered. They dud tear before you turned it down. You want more money than no. John, you have to stop drinking before the shows. But yeah, he never offered. They got offered supposedly this offseason a contract and got offered the big one last year. Obviously turned it down and probably should have taken it if he wanted to be a Giant. If he just cared about the money, then he's where he should be. So John says he's gone now. May as well show what went down. Again, you have to think of the long-term ramifications of this. I really do think that, because if you want Saquon to be a guy who can come back, be cheered on by the fans, then you're needed her to paint him in as positive a light as possible. Because this is going to be remembered for at least for a few years. It's kind of like we joke around about Antonio Cromartie having all the kids when he was in the Jets at Hard Knocks. Like, people still talk about that. I mean, not to the degree they used to, obviously, but I'm sure Jet fans do much more than the average fan like us at that point that's, not a Jet fan, but watches the NFL in general. But that kid had, 25 kids or something like that? And, he couldn't remember all their names or birthdays or something?
Well, just pick a month and high or low. I don't know.
I'm just saying. That's people still will remember that. There are certain things that kind of hold on like that. John says, whoa, Roberto was on Sopranos. Did you get whacked? He did, but that was backstage. Christopher Tony, hey guys, I think it will show how this organization is really run, right or wrong. I'll tell you this: if it's run right, they'll show that stuff. If it's run wrong, they will hide that stuff.
Yeah,
which means people still have no clue if they're just good editing or if they're actually showing good stuff. I guarantee you will leave as a Giant fan each episode going, oh, well, my team is doing right. My team did this. This could go. Like, they're going to make this Giant team look as positive as possible. Trust me on that. So, because they said, the Giants, remember, they said, John Mara said, when the Giants will be on Hard Knocks to be when he's in the ground next to his father. The only reason they're okaying this, at least publicly, what they're saying is why they're okaying is because it's the 100th season and they want that kind of added publicity. I still think the NFL probably told them, you guys got to do this. And John Mara's like, well, I'm not letting them into camp. So they're like, okay, we'll do an off-season one. Like, I think they did this as a favor to the Giants to a certain degree because eventually you got to be on the show. Like, they can't have this show run for like 30 seasons and never have the Giants on it. Like, they do multiple teams per year now with this stuff, you know? They're doing a whole division in season this year. Like, you can't not be on this. It is what it is. Your NFL team is part of your media responsibilities now. So, but they're not going to show anything crazy because if they do, John Mara will flip out and they'll probably cancel the whole dang show because John Mara does have a ton of power within the NFL. So,
100%.
All right. And then he also says Saquon's situation was agent's fault. He had 2 agents at the time. Give DeVito a shot. What could have hurt? Okay, so a couple things to break down on this. First, Saquon had 1 agent when he turned down the big offer, got a second agent that offseason because he was mad about the way things were going down, dropped that original agent at that point there. So I think it's safe to say that that agent he hired to be the second agent is probably the one that did 90% of the negotiating. Because he was ticked off that the first agent didn't accept what is probably the best offer he was going to get from the Giants when he got it. So I do think if Saquon can go back, he would take that. But, you know, you can't go back. And the Giants weren't offering it back, which is interesting too. So John says LMFAO, new nickname, Backstage Roberto.
What would you like to know?
He thinks that's a new nickname.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's get into some more talk here. So, next topic we got to talk about there is what may at least be the biggest acquisition on the defense. I think it's a safe thing to say at this point here, and that's the Burns trade. We got to know like more about how it went down. We got to know more about how did the Giants do it because they already released that the Giants, you know, in the trailer were expecting to have to give up 2 second-round picks, and they didn't. So how did they go ahead and fleece the Panthers and give up what they thought was undervalued for this player? Was it because of the money they had to give them? Was it because the new regime in Carolina just really wanted to get rid of him? You know, I'm just kind of curious what we find out in this. You know, did Shane go point blank, here's my line in the sand, I'm not going past it. Come over here to this side or else we're just not going to see each other. I want to see how he negotiates. I'm kind of curious, you know, because we haven't seen that side of him yet. We haven't seen the. No. Let me put this.
The wheel and dealer.
Let me put this as nicely as I possibly can. Shane is a guy that we haven't seen the dick side. We really haven't. We've seen the business side, the serious side. You don't make it to being where he's at in the NFL and where he's at in life without having a dick side. There's a certain part of that. Like, you can't negotiate like this, like they have to in this kind of business, and not have that side. I'm kind of curious if we get to see that side. And he strikes me as the guy who's going to be not like yelling and cursing and flipping out, but kind of like
it's going to be stern.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is what we're willing to offer. Take it or leave it. Call me back if you're interested. Click. Like, I'm kind of curious to see if we get to see that side of him, because I'm just curious to see what a little bit more on what makes him tick and to see if I'm right. Because Shane's a guy that we said it before. This guy could play poker and probably win a tournament. You have no clue what this man's thinking. He's just that good. So, let's see what happens. Let's see, was there a lot of back and forth? Was it the Panthers just wanted to get rid of him and took less than what the Giants thought they'd have to give? I'm just really curious. And I'm also curious about the contract negotiations with him too, because that's a massive contract. Like, that is one of the biggest contracts the Giants have ever given a player. And I think it's probably the biggest one the Giants ever given a non-quarterback. I think the only bigger ones are probably an Eli contract, So it's going to be interesting to see that, because that's the one knock I had in the move. Like, I don't think he's worth $30 million a year or $28 million a year. I just don't. I'm not saying he can't develop into that, but he hasn't shown himself to be that yet in the NFL. So I'm kind of curious how all of that part of it shakes out and how that plays out there, because that's a touchy thing to tell somebody. Like, could you imagine, like, you just get traded, or somebody's like, okay, we've agreed to trade for you. We need to figure out your new contract.
Yeah, I mean, you also have to think about it too, Drew. Like, these guys are now getting paid way more money than when we're doing our draft reruns. Like, how they're going to pay now. Like, they're going to pay way more money, and that's what the modern NFL players are going to pay now. So, like, you want to talk, a better caliber player like Burns, like, you have to pay this guy some more money, and that's the going rate for him. And we got him at it.
Is it though? But I'm saying, is it though? Is he in that top?
You could say that
$30 million, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that's a difficult conversation to have with a player, saying, we really like you, we're trading for you. Obviously, we want you to be a New York Giant, but I'm sorry, you are not a $30 million player.
You need to take another $5 million off your contract.
Like, that's not an easy thing to state, but you know what? Sometimes that stuff has to be said. And I wonder, because all the rumors were he wanted a $30 million contract. And I wonder if the Giants said to him point blank, like, listen, we'll pay you 28. We'll kind of meet you in the middle between 25 you're probably worth. And we want you to go ahead and take some incentives so that way you have the opportunity to get to the 30 you wanted. But you've got to be at $30 million to get the $30 million. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want to see how that conversation went down, because, like I said, even though what we're paying him right now, I think it was a $28 million contract. I think it worked out to be. I still think that is too much money. I really do. I think we're overpaying him, but sometimes that works out. I said the same thing at Bobby Okereke last year, and I still think we did overpay for him based on how we played with the Colts and what other linebackers got last offseason. That doesn't mean I'm not happy having the player now. That doesn't mean I would gladly, I wouldn't gladly give him that contract right now. Of course I would. He's been a damn good player for us. Doesn't change the fact that we overpaid at that time.
But did we, though?
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to say. No, we didn't. Obviously, a season later, he proved to be the player that you want him to be to get that money. He proved to you that. And now it's okay because you've seen it.
No, it's not that I've seen it. It's a matter of what other linebackers got last year. And that's what I'm saying. He was overpaid for the position and the production he had leading up to that point. You don't pay based on hope and dreams.
You don't pay based on dreams, but like you also pay on projections of where a player's going to be and their talent level or where they're going to be for the following season.
That's so hard to do, though, man. That falls.
It is.
That it really does. I don't like taking risks. I want known commodities.
You're right, but you can't do that in NFL. Like,
you can't do it.
He could have been the best. Right. So Burns, he could be the best edge whatsoever, and you get him for $10 million less. Tears his ACL week 1. Was he worth that $20 million?
If he played like a $20 million player, yes, he was, because
for one game. No,
but he still played leading up to at that point. There's always that risk. But I get that. That risk is there, especially for the Giants.
But it goes both ways. It goes both ways.
It's very progressive, but still. I'm just saying, like,
you're letting your boomer out.
No, it's just like I don't like paying people based on hopes and dreams. I want to pay
you're
people
wrong
based
for
on
that.
what they're doing and what they've done. You got a guy who's literally done one season over 10 sacks, and you're paying him like he's a 15 sack guy. That's what's happening. That's what we're doing.
Okay, right? He was worth the money, right?
Again, He is worth it based on what
Sexy
he did.
Dex, he was also worth the money, right?
You and I both talked about we're a little nervous about paying him because he only had one good year.
Were, but could we just say like, our GM's paying that line some money, and it's been working out.
It has, but we can still sit there and
acknowledge we not risks. Be such we can acknowledge the risk. You're 100% right.
Are you saying that I'm being a Debbie Downer? Is that 100%. What you're insinuating?
Listen, that face doesn't do justice.
Like I said, I just have to bring it up each time because I can't believe how much money this guy got. Like, he's not a 1 or 2 year player. Like, he's been in the league for a few years now. I haven't seen him be a $30 million player. And like I said,
but you also see him play for the Panthers.
But I want to see, does Shane give that shot and try to get that number down? I want to see that, because if he doesn't, and he's like, oh, you want $30 million? Here. We're not quite there. We'll give you 28. We'll give you this so that we have a chance, and doesn't try something lower, I'll be a little disappointed, to be honest. I will. But I don't know if we're going to even see those negotiations. Are they?
You might not.
And that's part of the craziness in this whole thing, is that we're doing what we hope. Here I am saying I don't want to pay for hopes and dreams, but this whole entire conversation is based on what we're hoping to see in the show. The irony.
We're hoping for a whole bunch of hopes.
We got high hopes.
High hopes.
Yeah. Like I said, I get taking the risk. I really do. Like, I'm not against taking a risk, guys. But I'm against paying top dollar and paying for a risk. Like, there's a risk what we did with John Runyon. We talked about him last episode, how he got ranked to being the all overpaid team in the NFL at $10 million a year because he's a very good pass blocker and not a good run blocker. So it's like he's really good at one thing, really bad at the other. So do you want to pay him top dollar? But we paid him $10 million. If we paid him $20 million, I'd be like, what, WTF here, to put it nicely.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say just the letters, but I'm saying, like, that's where the difference comes in. I have no problem overpaying and trying for somebody that we think is going to grow and have the potential at that point. That's worth it to me, because the risk is not as big at that point. If you're telling me that if Brian Burns comes in and gets 8 sacks and looks like an 8-sack player, I don't mean like he gets 8 sacks and that's all he gets. I mean, like, full all around, like, he gets the passer occasionally. He gets the 8 sacks, but gets a sack every other game. He does a couple of things on defense, like stuff like he did last year with Carolina. I'm going to be very disappointed that we're paying a man $30 million for that kind of production.
You're right, but who else played on that defensive line for Carolina Panthers last
year?
Oh,
listen, we talked about that. But I can't. It doesn't still change the fact that he's not played as a $30 million player. He just hasn't.
He's also been the Lone Ranger on a terrible defense.
Saquon was the Lone Ranger last year. He did it as a running back.
But in your own words, you would not pay him $13 million.
Well, that's different because of the position. But I'm just saying, Thibodeau was a Lone Ranger. He did it as an edge rusher. Andrew Thomas was a Lone Ranger on the offensive line. He still did it.
Andrew Thomas is a little different.
No, but I'm just saying, you're still saying a guy is not worth. We're still doing the guy is or is not worth top dollar. Like, oh, he's different. How is he different?
No, I'm not saying.
Yeah, we're paying top dollar. It's worth top dollar.
I was talking that much down on the Carolina defense, right? So Sexy Dex is not going to affect the edge play at all.
No, I'm not saying that. But there was
so I'm just saying, like, so that doesn't help Thibodeau, right? So that doesn't help Thibodeau going down the side. So now Thibodeau's going down the side. Doesn't help Burns going down the other side. Like,
of course,
you're going to see a lot more productive play out of Burns just by being on a better team. He was a Lone Ranger down, but you're taking those stats in a terrible team.
I'm not
and
trying
bringing them to that
pay $1 tomorrow for a hamburger today.
But I'll gladly pay for a hamburger tomorrow.
I'm just saying, I want to pay based on what's legit and what's visible, what's seen. I don't want to pay for hopes and dreams because that's too risky. But at a $30 million a year clip, again,
and you're not wrong. I'm not
$30 million player. I'm going to take the risk and not be so worried about it. $30 freaking million.
I hear what you're saying. I'm just saying that's a player that's played on, we can say, the worst defense. It was still a bright star on the worst defense.
I don't know. Like I said, I'm not as high.
So what is he going to do? What's he going to do on a better defense? That's all I'm saying. He's going to look that much better than any other defense.
Like I said,
listen. If he went from North Carolina to Atlanta, he would have been that much of a better looking player. And that's not saying much. Just better, same division, a little bit of a better team.
I don't know. I'm nervous about the move. I am. So I'm showing it, and I'm fine. I'm fine with showing it because I'm not saying it's impossible for him to play much better. Don't get me wrong. It's crazy to think that, but he is literally the top 3 highest paid edge rushers in the NFL now. TJ Watt makes less. Myles Garrett makes less. Montez Sweat, who just signed this offseason as well, makes less.
But that's also
the only guys making.
I hear what you're saying, but
Josh
it's also
Allen's
not
right there with them. They're neck and neck. It's like literally a difference of $50,000. Yeah. And the only other guy besides that is Nick Bosa, which is just making an insane $34 million.
Yeah. It was also not fair to TJ Watt, who, when did he sign the agreement? Like,
no. But what I'm saying is, okay,
Gary,
hold on, real quick. Yes,
I'm not saying saying that. I'm just saying.
Hold on. Hear me out. Is he better than Nick Bosa?
No, he's not better than any of those players.
Hold on, hear me out. Is he better than TJ Watt?
No.
Is he better than Myles Garrett?
No.
Is he better than Montez Sweat? Is he better than Josh Allen? I just think we overpaid, and that's just what scared me.
But the thing is, I'm going to say, the thing you have to listen to is Garrett and Garrett and TJ Watt got paid years ago when those players did not get paid like that. If there was this offseason, those guys would be making $35-36 million a year.
I don't know about that. That's a huge bump.
It's a huge bump. You're right. But when you're one of the best at your positions, that's what happens. You reset the standard.
Yeah, I just think it, to me it's way too much. But like I said,
you reset the standard, and we've talked about
the standard now is you two can make $28 million a year and get less than 10 sacks.
Apparently, listen, I don't make the rules. Every time your cap gets bumped up, every position is going to get paid more.
Yes. Every
time the NFL makes deals with YouTube or whatever other channel they're broadcasting to now, Paramount or whatever they're doing,
everywhere.
Yeah, our cap's going to get boosted up. Players are going to get paid more. That's what it is. That's their agent doing the right job by their player.
Like I said, I'm just curious to see. I'm curious to see the negotiations. I'm not like overly ticked off about it. I just think we overpaid, and there's a huge risk because we overpaid on a top end contract. Risks scare me. This is why I put my money in a bank, not the stock market. No Enron for me. All right, let's get into the next one here because we go back and forth in this one. We're going to go back and forth in this one probably even more potentially. We'll see. But we got to talk about the offseason here and the Giants' interest in bringing in a quarterback because there was definitely reports out there. And how serious those reports were, I don't know. How much was everything legit and how much was just rumor spreading, I don't know. I want to see if they talk about the Giants potentially bringing in a different quarterback than Daniel Jones for the season. Like how much did we like Russell Wilson? We brought him in for, the building. He was in the building, had a meeting with the whole Giants brass, and we let him leave and go to Pittsburgh. Did we really want him? I think they were just kicking tires. I really do. I'm with you. You're shaking your head no. You have to say no, Rob. There's also an audio podcast in this. But I agree.
I whispered no. They heard me.
I agree with you. Like, but I'm kind of curious what they talk about if they mention even that on the show. I don't know how far back the show's going to go there at that point. I got to think it's going to go back that far because we have the Saquon talk, and that was the very first day of tampering, legal tampering or illegal tampering with the Eagles case. But, but I want to see what was the thought process. Hey, let's bring Russell Wilson in if he's available later on and JJ's not healing well. Maybe look at him again. Or was it, hey, let's bring Russell Wilson in and see if we think he's better than Daniel Jones? I just want to see what the thought process was.
I think you might get some of that here and there. Like, hey, is Russell better than DJ? Maybe. Probably not. Like,
Brad.
I'm a Russell Wilson fan, like, when he was drafted. But mother time caught up with him. Like, he's not the same player as he once was. Like, he can't do the same moves. He's not as dynamic. Like, not saying DJ is a great player at all. Fantastic. He's not. I mean, I'd love to see him be the quarterback. The Super Bowl quarterback MVP, but that's not going to happen. There's few far in between. But are they saying, hey, can we find a better quarterback than DJ? Maybe. Probably not by the time the show starts, but are they saying, hey, let's get some competition in this room and make him work for his job? That could be something that's being talked about in Hard Knocks.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm kind of curious, And the other part of this whole thing is, what they really thought of this year's QB draft class. They met with all the big names there. They obviously, there was at least rumors that they were interested in JJ McCarthy.
Rumor has it.
Rumor has it. I mean, you and I think agreed that was pretty much a smokescreen from the get-go. We said we thought that at the very beginning when they were doing it too, because again, a college quarterback's best move should not be handing the ball off to the running back. But it was also, did they like Bo Nix? Did they like Michael Penix? There's a lot of questions in that there, and the trailer alluded to the fact that the the Falcons try to trade up to get our pick as well. So it's like, were they interested in a quarterback like Michael Penix at 6 at that point? Did the Giants, entertain taking him? And is that why the Falcons were calling it that? Like, there's a lot of variables to the whole scenario with the draft class, because it'll be spun as if we wanted Malik Neighbors the whole entire time and not getting, Michael Penix or Bo Nix or JJ McCarthy. So those are the 3 that were left. But is that the truth? And if it's not the truth, would they even show that on Hard Knocks? Because I don't think they would. I think they wanted to make it seem like they loved Malik Neighbors. They wanted him from the very get-go. Like, nobody else held the candle to Malik Neighbors for them. Like, they want to build up his confidence, because let's be honest, it's a very confidence-driven position, the wide receiver position. But I'm curious to see that. And there's going to be at least 1 or 2 kind of shocking things in that show, because that's what they just have to do. It's a show. It'd be kind of a boring show if it was nothing unexpected. So I'm wondering if that could be part of the equation as we find out more about these quarterbacks in the draft, because it's going to pop up. And I wonder if they admit that it was a smokescreen, that they weren't interested in JJ McCarthy. I think that could be one of them. I really think that could be one of the surprise moves. Like, hey, we brought McCarthy in. We didn't think it was a fit. We didn't want to announce that because we wanted to see what we can get a potential trade maybe for him. That kind of scenario.
Yeah, fool you.
We said it before. Shane, you have no clue what's on his mind. Absolutely no clue. That man, do not play poker with him. He will lie to your face, but not lie because it's just worded carefully. He won't care. He will not care.
I do not have 4 of a kind.
Yeah. So I have 5. Wait a minute here. Check his sleeves. But it's like, and the other part about this is how much they talk about this also displays their confidence level, in Daniel Jones. And I think that for that reason, the show may kind of glance over that situation to a certain degree, because they don't want to publicly make it seem like they weren't faithful to Daniel Jones. They weren't confident in his ability to come back and get healthy and lead this team. I'm not sure, though. I feel like there's got to be some of this, at least in the show at that point, because it was definitely part of the draft equation. So we'll find out exactly how serious they were. So let's talk about another guy here that is new to the Giants this offseason, and that's defensive coordinator Shane Bowen. And we got to find out more about this new defense. They showed a clip of the show already. If you guys haven't watched it yet, I know the Giants put it on all their social media, where they talked about Shane Bowen's defense, and Bowen was introduced by Joe Shane and said, "Hey, listen, we're going to talk about bring Shane Bowen up here. He's going to talk about his new defense. We need you guys familiar with what he's looking for, what the terminology is in his defense, that kind of stuff." And he came up there and started mentioning it. And if you're like me and you're a crazy fanatic, you may have screenshotted the whiteboard, because I did. And you got to see some of the terminology and stuff like that he had for this defense. And I do think it's going to be much more of a traditional 3-4/4-3 than people think. I think you'll see 4 down at times. And I think it's going to be because if you do that, you're closer to the quarterback. This is going to be a don't blitz like crazy, throw really strong pass rush at these guys, and make it where the secondary keeps everybody, guarded up at that point, so those guys have a chance to get home to the quarterback. This is going to be much different than what I think, Wink Martindale did, which obviously Wink's defenses are very unique in general. He just throws everything, including the kitchen sink. Like literally from the sidelines, he grabs the sink out of the bathroom and just tosses it on the field. Like it's
from the waist, the locker room.
Exactly. While screaming, "Who needs to wash their hands?" It's really,
yeah.
But it's like, that's what he did. Like he threw safeties and corners and linebackers. Like he would drop edge, players like Kayvon into coverage just to throw a safety at him. Shane's not going to do that. Shane Bowen's going to run much more of a traditional defense at that point. And I think that the players are going to like it more because the secondary is going to have more help. The edge rushers can do what they want to do and just pin their ears back and go after the damn quarterback. Dexter Lawrence is going to get more help as well because, we talk about all the time about how like Dexter Lawrence helps, gets the pressure up the middle. The quarterback has to leave the pocket because Dexter Lawrence is coming, which is not wrong. But there's also a sense of if Dexter Lawrence is coming up the middle and Burns and Thibodeau are coming from the edges and they work well together, and they might not have a place to go. And that's, I think, what the hope of this defense is going to be, is to let 100%. Those guys go ahead and pin their ears back, force this guy to stay in the pocket, have enough guys in coverage that he has trouble finding someone to throw to, and eventually gets brought down to the ground. That's what the plan's going to be, it seems like, much more than, this trickery and throwing crazy stuff at, and everybody's in press man and all this kind of stuff. I'm all for it. We saw last year, towards the end of the season, when Wink kind of got forced into doing more, zone coverage. Deonte Banks looks so much better. It's not even funny. I think towards the end of the year, he definitely looked better the last few weeks there. It's when he started getting interceptions. He looked more comfortable in coverage. He's physically built for press. And I think he could do it as part of his repertoire, as the French would say.
Ooh.
Not to be confused with menage a trois. Different trois. But
whole bunch of people.
But I think it's something he can put in his arsenal there. Use that word instead. But it's something he doesn't want to do and isn't necessarily the guy to do every single play like Wink wanted. So I think this is going to help him, and helping the secondary is going to be key because we talked about it before. There's so many young guys. This is going to be a defense, I think, that's going to help these guys develop. And that's not the kick Wink on the way out, because we already did that enough at this point. I just think that Shane Bowen is going to have that kind of defense there. I want to see more about not just the defense. I want to see about the interview process. I want to hear from them what impressed them about Shane Bowen in this interview process. I'd be kind of curious to see if they go over what set him apart from guys like Jerome Henderson, who obviously still is on our team there as the passing game coordinator for the defense. I think is the title he has now, along with being the secondary coach. He also got a promotion, and I'm sure a little pay bump. I'm curious, what did Mike Vrabel say about him? I don't know if they would even have that in there, but again, this is stuff that I'm very curious about. I want to be on fly in the wall for the whole off season, not just for the 6 episodes you're going to show us.
Yeah.
Like, I really want to hear more. I find this stuff interesting to kind of go behind the scenes like that. I'd love if the Giants like taped everything and 5 years down the road just released everything when it no longer mattered. Like, that'd be amazing. I'd watch that show all day long. Like, on this episode of 5 years ago at MetLife, like I would watch that in a heartbeat. Like, bring it on. Like, we got to find out finally about Blake Martinez, what made him quit. Like, that's the kind of stuff
really loves his Pokemon cards.
Like, that's the kind of stuff I would enjoy watching. So, I'm kind of hoping that they get a little more in depth than what I think they're going to, but my hopes are not crazy up there. So, let's talk about the draft, you guys.
Ooh.
Oh, yes, because we got pick number 6 to talk about, because they already talked about in the trailer we talked about a minute ago that the Falcons had called up and supposedly offered to move down. I want to find out what kind of conversation was had before pick 6, which I feel we're saying pick 6. It's not like we're talking about interceptions.
Yeah.
Had the 6th pick in the draft, of course.
Overall picks.
Yes. So, I want to hear, what did Atlanta offer? Did other teams try to trade up as well? Because again, I think the whole talk about McCarthy was a smokescreen to get somebody to trade up with them now. I want to know, did we even consider a quarterback? Did we like Penix? Did we like McCarthy? Did we like Nix? I want to hear what they talk about as far as their thoughts on these guys there. Did we even look at Rome Odunze on draft night? I don't mean beforehand. Obviously, we scouted him. Obviously, I'm sure they brought him in for a top 30 and stuff like that. But was there a discussion when we're on the clock at pick 6? Did we go, we like Neighbors, we like Odunze, or was it like, no, Odunze doesn't fit this offense as well, let's go right for Neighbors, he's the guy? Or was it, Neighbors is more explosive, I think he's the guy we should get for that reason at that point there, he is the higher ceiling.
I think it's going to be very brief on like if it's going to be Rome Odunze or Neighbors. I think
I don't think it is. I think
going into draft night, they knew if they're going to pick one of those receivers, so they don't move, it's going to be, this is our guy.
I think they'll talk about it with the 2 of them briefly, but I think once they do that, they're going to go into like kissing Malik Neighbors' gluteus maximus so much it's not even funny. Like, we really liked Odunze as well out of Washington, and we looked at the quarterbacks, and we thought some of them have some real talent as well, but Malik Neighbors is just amazing. He's going to be spectacular. I think that's why they're going to spin this whole thing. Like, they'll talk briefly about the other options and what they thought about, but they're not going to talk them down, but they're not going to talk them up either, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they're going to talk. Yeah, they're going to obviously talk the highest about the guy they drafted. Like, of course, why they drafted the guy.
Exactly, but I think it's also because of the fact that even if it was a close call, they're not going to say that.
No.
That'd be
why would you? Because like that's you're going to talk highly about the guy that's not on your team, and not talk highly about the guy that's on your team.
Of like, oh, we weren't sure which way we wanted to Odunze or Neighbors till the very last minute. We flipped a coin. Like, they're not going to say that.
That's what I'm saying.
That's right up there with Kafka flipping off with Daboll as he walks by. Like, you're not going to see that kind of stuff, guys.
Yeah.
It could have been the closest decision ever. It could have been down to one person making the final tiebreaker vote. They're not going to tell you that. I don't think it was in this scenario. I think more of the conversation might be people in the room saying we should get a quarterback. I think that's probably more of the conversation. But yeah, it's just a little crazy there, that's for sure. But there was a lot of options at 6, including that trade down. And I'm sure somebody probably wanted to trade down, because you could have said, hey, great, we'll trade down with the Falcons. Neighbors might not be there, but Odunze will. We'll get some extra draft picks. I could see where somebody would sit there and say that makes sense. But it all depends on what you think of Odunze and what you think of Neighbors. I think it depends on what you were being offered. And that's why I'm curious what these offers are. Because if someone said to me, hey, I'm going to give you a 2nd-round pick here to go down to 8, I might be interested.
Oh, yeah.
If they give me a 4th-round pick, hell no, I'm taking Neighbors all day long. So, all right. We still got one more to talk about here, guys. This was the story, and not of a lovely lady, but of a tight end
who can't rap for crap.
Who should not rap, that's for damn sure. And the offseason he had, because this was a storyline that kind of really took over the offseason for a good portion of it during the slower news days, so to speak, there. But we got to find out more about the Waller decision. And I'm curious if they include that stuff, because he wasn't around the Giants. You know, he was on his own, so to speak, there. I wasn't sure if he wanted to play, but he did interviews. He's never been camera shy. I'm wondering if the Waller saga comes into play here. And if so, how much does it come into play? Because it was a big story for the Giants in this offseason. But again, Waller may not have wanted to be part of that. So, do we get more information on the medical issue he had? We just heard about that as he retired. That wasn't, public knowledge until then. Not that it should be. It's his personal medical information. But did we find out more information on what happened exactly? Because it's been a little ambiguous in the details. So, maybe that's why, because they were saving it for the show. Maybe it's just Waller doesn't want to share it, which is his right. We don't know. I'm kind of curious in that one there. Do we learn more about when he decided to retire? I don't think we'll learn in that one, personally, because I think there was a handshake agreement that he would not retire officially until after June 1st. The Giants knew at draft time, probably. That's why they got Theo Johnson. You can't admit that you're cheating the system, though. But
yeah,
Giants hadn't done that yet with the play, though. So technically, he could have any time retired and done that. I think their Giants just wanted to keep their options open, so to speak, in case they wanted to cut someone or something was going to happen, and they had that spot to go ahead and do a June 1st cut like that. I do think that's probably the scenario, because again, you can do it once and once only. If he had retired before June 1st, they couldn't do that to anybody else. I think there was a handshake agreement there. I could be wrong. And again, they're not going to admit that on the show, obviously. So the last part, listen, it's not necessarily the biggest thing ever, but listen, we all like drama. We all love drama. I don't care what anybody says. We all love drama. We may not be the people that want to get involved in it. We may avoid people that are drama-filled in our lives, or we're in our lives at some point. We all love learning about it, getting involved and hearing about it without having the stress of actually being in the middle of it. You give me the look, Rob. I'm right. I'm right. Why do you think stuff like the OJ trial was the biggest thing ever? Because it was so drama-filled, but it didn't affect us either way.
I'm also not a fan of reality TV, but sometimes. But yeah, exactly. It's very popular. I'm not a fan of it.
First off, I have watched you watching Jerseylicious so many times, it's not even funny.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. You are a fan of the Gatsby Salon. I'm embarrassed that I even know the name of the salon.
I was about to say, I don't even know what the hell that is.
In Greenbrook, New Jersey on Route 22. Who said that? What's going on here?
Wait, I used to work around the corner from there.
Yeah, it was like, what's that? That's a small little city that Jersey has. It's like a 1 square mile, and the whole town is like a 25-mile-an-hour speed trap.
Keensburg?
No, not Keensburg. Keensburg is a nuclear waste dump, is what that is. But I'm talking a speed trap. I'm sorry to anybody in Keensburg, by the way. I grew up in West Keensburg. It's okay, I can say it. Anybody else says that we smack them, but we can say it if you grew up there. But yeah, it's not. I can't remember the name of it. It starts with a D. Is it Denellen? Is that the name of it?
Yeah, the Denellen right there by.
I forget what it is, but there's a little
Jersey.
Yeah, there's a little little town like that, just a little bit north of Edison. But if you keep driving through that town, you'll hit 22, and right there is where Greenbrook is. You make a left, and there's the old Gatsby Salon. If it's still up, even I don't even know. I just remember my wife used to watch the show, and I'm sitting there watching it, and then all of a sudden I drive by the show one day. And I'm driving by the salon one day. I'm like, wait a minute, that's the salon in that show, because in that show they made it seem like it was like Hoboken or Bayonne. And I'm like, and I saw the logo, and I'm like, wait a minute. This is nowhere near that part of Jersey at all.
No,
as it gets. So, anyway, what I was getting at before I went a rant about Jerseylicious, which I never thought I would do on the show. is I'm curious, do we learn more about the soap opera that was the marriage/divorce to WNBA star and amazing popcorn eater Kelsey Plum? And if anybody doesn't know about what I mean about the popcorn, just search Kelsey Plum popcorn. It'll come right up. Rob's searching it now. It's a little provocative.
What did I miss?
Oh, yeah, I thought you knew about that. Anyway, I don't know why it's considered provocative, but it is. It's like, but doesn't.
Why does it come up before I finish having popcorn?
I told you it's a big thing. You got to watch like the video part of it though. That's what people like. The crazy faces she makes and all. But anyway, we got to find out. Do we find out more information?
You just look up the gifts of it.
Do we find out more about this? Do we? Yep. I'm telling you, it was like a big thing when it happened. I don't know why. But yeah, it's like
she made some crazy faces. I'm not gonna lie.
She did. But do we find out more of what happened? Do we find it anything? I don't think we do, because I think I'll put it this way: if we do, that just shows how bad Waller has no respect for Kelsey Plum anymore. And I'm not knocking him if he doesn't. I don't know what happened. For all I know, she's a complete B to him. For all I know she cheated on him. I don't know we don't know the scenario.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying she is one. I'm not saying she did cheat. I'm just saying we don't know the scenario. And if it was a friend of mine and she did treat him poorly, I would have no problem with him publicly bashing her. I would probably encourage it. But if it was an amicable, in any way, shape, or form, disillusionment of this marriage, then I would say, hey, just keep it out. It's not worth the headache, no matter what. You know what I mean? But it sounds like this was not amicable in any way, shape, or form, considering the man had her stunt double, so to speak, in the rap video, stab him in the back. So there is the possibility we do get some more information on this. Which, like I said, if he does that, oh my God, would it be like the biggest story for that episode probably. And then she would probably come back on social media. The two of them would go back and forth at that point, So interesting. I'm kind of curious to see what happens there. Because I don't know. I don't know why. I hate to admit it. I love the drama that I'm not a part of. That cannot affect me in my life in any way, shape, or form. I do. I'll admit it. I'm one of those people. I don't watch TMZ. I don't watch Desperate Housewives or Beverly Hills Housewives or any of the Housewives hoopla, but once a good story comes down, I kind of sometimes can't stop but finding out more information at that point there. If perhaps a certain Philadelphia Eagle gets chased down by a naked OnlyFans person, I'm just saying, that's kind of a big thing still at that point. Terrell Lewis, no one ever heard of this guy basically, and all of a sudden that happened. They became, the biggest story of the NFL for a week or two. I don't know if the biggest. We'll have to ask her, but still, he was just Hey-oh. But yeah, like I said, who doesn't love a good drama? So we'll find out what happens there, guys.
Yeah.
So again, July 2nd. So if you're watching live, that's tomorrow night. If you're watching not live, who knows what day it is? I don't know what day you're on right now. But if you're watching live, it's tomorrow, the July 2nd at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, HBO Max, HBO channel and the Max streaming service. They keep changing the name every freaking 2 seconds. I don't know what the hell to call it. Yeah, that purple one. The purple one of the Roku. That's all I know. So like I said, check it out. We'll be back again for you guys doing an episode on the on the show and our thoughts on the season premiere going next there Wednesday, of course. So we may make a slight change here in the programming hours wise there, guys. So if you haven't hit the bell already, hit that bell, because we're changing things up as we go along here, because it's a holiday week. It's a holiday week, so we got to go ahead and do little changes here. So let's go ahead the rest of the comments though, and then we'll go ahead and head out there for the day, because we do have some more comments here. John says, God, I love you guys. Now, I'm not sure if that's some kind of polytheistic religion that John is starting, where he has two different gods he likes, or if it's just one god. He didn't put the S at the end. I'm confused by this, John. Did we lose Rob? Are you there, Rob? I think we lost Rob. I think he got so touched by that comment, John, that we lost him. So we'll see if we get him back there in just a second. But yeah, so we got. Oh yeah, he's gone off the show entirely now. So he'll be back in a second. There probably was having some internet issues there before. Let's see here. Deb says, "Are the Giants going to lose money because of the lawsuit about the NFL Sunday ticket?" I think in the end, we haven't really talked about it much in the show there, but for those who are curious, there is a lawsuit going on. It's going to go through, I'm sure, multiple different appeals and all that kind of stuff there. If you ever ordered NFL Sunday ticket, though, keep an eye out, because that's what it's all about, is basically forcing fans of one team to buy every team's games when you're a monopoly. So, we'll see what they do and how that pans out there, but keep an eye. But it'll be a while. If it does go through, which I do expect it to, I'm sure it'll be divvied up by the 32 teams, and they'll probably have to pay it at that point there. Maybe it'll come out of Roger Goodell's salary. Probably not. Roger Goodell's not going to pay that. Oh, there he is. There he is. Guess who's back? Back again. Rob is back. Tell a friend.
Tell a friend. Tell a friend.
Oh, like you never seen Roberto before. Jaws on the floor. Anyway. Let's see here. Where we go? I lost my place putting it back in. Christopher Tony says, I heard that Slayton and Aziz may be on the trade block. They've been talking about that for a while. I don't think Aziz is going anywhere, that's for sure, because if you take him out, who's your third pass rusher? Boogie Basham? We've heard things, by the way, in camp, but still, I'm him as your third. Kelsey says, Mason heard you guys say Giants and scream, go Giants. There we go. There we go.
Let's go, G-Man.
Get all the kids started on them quickly. Otherwise, what happens? They become Jets fans, and that's not cool.
Or Packers fans.
Ooh, that's even worse.
Ooh.
Who would be a Packer fan? That's horrible.
It's
a person with bad taste, clearly. Dev says you don't get the good players if you don't take a risk. To some extent, you have to trust the GM's judgment. Oh no, 100%, 100%. I do get that. Like I said, my only issue with the Burns contract is I like taking risks on guys that we think have potential and could outplay their contract if they reach that potential, if that makes sense. Like if you have a guy who you think is a boom or bust kind of guy that you can pay a mid-tier contract that you think might be a bust or might be a stud, I like that kind of risk. I think that's what we have with John Runyon Jr., even though I'm a little scared by that contract too. I think I'm just cheap. I'm cheap my own money. That's part of it. But like I said, there is no way to win this contract. If he becomes an all-pro defensive end, sure, we're not going to complain about the contract, but we can't sit there and say we got a good deal either. You know what I'm saying?
You will once the contracts come towards the end, when all those players are getting $40 million.
Once he's holding out for more money.
Okay, and you know what? That's every year. That's part of NFL contracts. That's what you're gonna have to do. It's crazy. 5 years ago, we thought it was absurd that wide receivers are getting paid $18 million a year.
Yeah.
What did JJ get?
Yeah, scary thing is they might not even gotten $18 million. Now they're making 30. Some of these guys.
That's what I'm saying. Like
2 years ago, $20 million.
You can complain about what Burns got, but at the end of the day, that's what the market's going to be for players in that position.
I just don't think he was in that position, and that's my biggest issue with it.
I mean, you can think that all you want. That's fine.
I did.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that, but I'm telling you. But that's what these guys are going to get paid. That's a position of value where you have to pay someone.
It is, and that's why
we could argue about McKinney, we could argue about Barkley, but are they worth X amount? Are those guys worth $30 million? No, but a guy like Burns is more worth $30 million because that's a position that is of value that is paid more in the NFL in total in general.
I get it. I get it. Like I said, it's just riskier business than Tom Cruise sliding around in socks. That's all I'm saying. So,
but
John
he made it work.
Anyway, John says, we might have overpaid a bit, but we need a spark to get everyone going. Yeah. And
that spark is called Sexy Dex.
No, but you know what? As he's saying this, I'm kind of in my head going, he's not wrong. We need a spark. But maybe part of my issues is because we've gotten all these top 10 picks and we're still looking for a spark.
That's fair. But we just talked about new defensive coordinator coming in, running more of a traditional set. Now you got Burns Thibodeau, which might be one of the best edges set up in the league.
We'll see.
You still got Sexy Dex down the middle. You still got Carragher like in that right there in the back there. Like this defensive line, like is literally like did a whole revamp in the past.
Oh yeah,
in the past year, like 2 years.
Oh yeah, I mean the past couple of years they revamped that. They revamped the wide receiver room. They've reinvented the offensive line.
Since we started this podcast, like this, it's a different team.
It really is. And yet still we have Daniel Jones. That's a whole different.
That's different.
Yeah. Devin says, I finally caught a live stream. Yeah. What's up, Drew? What's up, Rob? What's up, Devin? Glad to get you be on here. Now,
hey, Devin.
I see Devin, by the way, in the comments section, all the non-live videos that we do post that are kind of the segments of our live shows here. So just want to say thank you, Devin. I do see the comments there.
Obviously, much appreciate it.
It is appreciated because it helps push those videos out. They do. So Deb says, is Trevor Lawrence better than Patrick Mahomes? He's making more money than him. Can't base judgment on how much money they're getting paid. But see, that's the thing. We did that with Trevor Lawrence. We did that. We actually made the whole segment about whether or not Trevor Lawrence was better than Daniel Jones and how ridiculous the contract was. And I still stand by that. That's a potential franchise killer contract if Trevor Lawrence doesn't improve.
You're not wrong.
Build when you got a $55 million contract for a guy who's an average starter at times. So we'll see what he does.
Who shows flashes of being good.
He does. Like everybody thought it was his coming out party at the end of 22. It's ironic because him and Daniel Jones both had that coming out party and then both took a step back last year. It's like they're the same person. It's like, is Daniel Jones wearing a wig and going down to Jacksonville? If that's the case, how did he pull it off when he played the Jaguars?
Maybe he's made with it. Maybe it's Maybelline.
It's definitely Maybelline. John says, if Daniel doesn't do good, I'd trade for Penix immediately. I don't think the Falcons are trading Penix. Listen,
no.
You took an 8th overall pick for this kid. You got to guarantee you get more than that to even consider trading him. If you want to talk about a guy that you could trade for, it's Hendon Hooker with the Lions. And I'm not even saying this to move. It depends on what's available at that time. Maybe the move is just signing Ryan I don't know why an accent came around all of a sudden. Ryan Tannehill. But maybe that's
too long Tennessee.
I don't know why, dude. It's where it's that little bit of twang that comes out from living in Florida for a couple of years now, I guess. But yeah, it's like that's.
Hey, what's that in your teeth? Is that a little gator?
Gator bites. Okay. Yeah. Gator bites are good. He's just like chicken. I actually have had them. They're pretty good. But yeah, like I said,
delicious.
I don't know which way they would go. I really don't. But it depends on what's available at that time frame. I think he's going to be given a long leash though, and I think if he doesn't succeed, chances are they just probably give DeVito and Locke, shots at that point to start. They brought Locke in.
Probably going to get a lock.
If they brought Locke in just to bring somebody else in, if Daniel Jones doesn't look good, that speaks of volumes to how bad Locke must be looking at that time in camp. Like if you're panicking that much, I don't think it's happening. I don't.
Yeah.
John says, or even Kirk Cousins till we get Archie Manning. LOL. No, they're not going to trade Kirk Cousins, but they just signed up that big deal. John says, did you say lie to your face or ride your face? LOL. I think I probably said lie to your face because there's no one here on the panel that I would say ride your face to. Devin says, I speak French. Well, bonjour.
Moi.
Omelette du fromage.
Yes.
I was just in France yesterday, actually. It was right next to Morocco at Epcot.
Hot second of felt for that. It's like, God damn it.
I wish I was in actual France. I'd actually love to go to France. I haven't got the chance to go. It's on my list. John says, I'm still worried about Neighbors because of the Odell going there. I don't want more diva crap again or a Tony situation. I would have taken to Doonsay.
That's not a fair assessment. And also, you could follow Neighbors on social media, and he doesn't seem like the guy that's 100% that diva like the other two guys. He is in his own right. He's got his own ego, but he seems like, yeah, you have to, in order to play that position, you have to have your own ego. But he's more relaxed and down to earth to it. Like his biggest, like one of my favorite tweets he had was when the whole was it 2016 when all the receivers were on the yacht.
Oh yes.
He reposted that and it was like, "Hey, Giant fans, don't worry, I don't like boats."
Yeah,
it's like
he gets it. I think I think there were some concerns because of the Daniel Jones comments he made specifically before the draft. I still think that was a boneheaded move.
It was.
He hasn't done boneheaded things since then. And again, when you get kids you're drafting, and I say kids because I'm not trying to be rude about it, like I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I'm sorry, I'm in my 40s. These kids are barely able to drink. Like they're kids. I did stupid things at his age.
I'm not willing to call him a kid yet. I'm not quite as old as Drew, but he's still a young guy. He's still a young man.
He's a young man. Yeah, young man is just saying kid still at that point. That's like
young man is not quite a kid at all.
Might as well tell him to get off your lawn.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, you're entitled to mistakes. So when you see a mistake made early on, you go, hold on, is this a flag? Is this an issue? We got to keep an eye out. And we kind of sounded that alarm, like, hey, keep an eye out. Let's see what's going on. But we didn't fully disregard him or say he's definitely got an attitude issue and blah, 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 you know. And since then, he's been good as far as what he said, what he's done in the media and stuff like that. So I'm chopping that up to just a mistake he made overall, and I'm not worried about it unless something else comes up.
Yeah.
It's kind of like each day the flag comes down a little more.
Yeah, he may have just...
He made a stupid mistake. It happens.
Yeah, I guess.
If I ever stop talking to people or talking negatively about them because of stupid mistakes, I mean, Rob and I wouldn't be able to do the show. I mean,
oh God, jeez. The dumb things Drew says all the time. God, I don't know what we would do.
Nothing I say is dumb. I don't know what you're talking about. John says, miss the days of Parcells, Mike Ditka, etc. Where you just spoke. None of this. I gotta watch what I say and just say, hey, we wanted this guy. They took him. We took this guy, or we were fine with either. That's because it's a different generation, and I hate to say it that way as a negative thing because I don't mean it as a negative thing. Like it comes off negative. We say, oh, it's a different generation. It's not that this other generation is too soft to deal with that. I feel like it's that they realize you don't got to be a dick to get results.
It's also
or a Ditka.
Yeah, Ditka, exactly. And there's also like besides that point, it's different generation how you talk to players, how you treat players. Not saying that they're soft, but there's also the aspect of endorsements. There's also aspects of other things coming in and how you make your money otherwise.
That wasn't there back then, really.
It wasn't. So you come in.
Except the Ricky Williams wig that Mike Ditka had. That was definitely a top seller on ChicagoBears.com. Or, not Chicago Bears, though. NewOrleansSaints.com, I should say. That's when he was the Saints coach.
Yeah.
Feels like so long ago. Because it was.
I'm old.
No.
Get off my lawn, you man.
But I bet I have a better golf score than you, Rob.
Just because you lost track of your back nine.
You don't get the reference I'm making. It's okay. Some people in the audience will. Some people will. I went a little political there. A little political.
You did. You did.
No, it's okay. Listen, they were both stupid doing it. I'm not even talking to one side or the other. They were both arguing. We had two grown men fighting for the presidential nomination or presidential win, arguing over a better golf score.
I thought we were talking old man stuff. We're actually talking about Thursday night, but we don't talk about this stuff on this podcast.
We don't.
Let's
keep
going.
That's what I'm saying. We're good. I didn't branch it pro or con either side. I just said they're both old and stupid. Anyway, Devin says, I hope Nabes wipes my memory of OBGYN number 13. I haven't heard anybody really call him OBGYN. I kind of like it, actually. But listen, I think he's gotten to that point, OBJ now, where we look at him with fond memories of what he was. Even if you weren't an OBJ fan when he was a Giant. Like, I was not the biggest OBJ fan. I admit it freely. I never hide that whatsoever. Like, I thought he was a distraction, and I don't think he was a bad teammate per se. But when you're getting in fights with the kicking net on the sidelines and you're starting fights with Josh Norman on the field, you are a distraction.
100%. I was a fan, just like every other Giants fan was, when you saw this. And you're like, all right, that's our player. And then 2 years later, peeing on goalposts. Can't be doing that.
All kinds of crazy stuff. All right. John says, me too, Devin. John says, hey, you deserve holiday time. It's cool. Devin says, I think Waller really loved her. His pain is clear to see. I think he did as well. But I think he feels wrong. I think that's pretty obvious. K-Ray Walker, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing there. I'm trying to not butcher the name there. I hate when people do that. So I'm sorry if I am. But it says, Burns is going to be great for the Giants. I think Burns is not a bad pickup for the Giants. Again, just to be clear, it's not that I hate the player. I hate the contract we gave the player. That's all it is. John says, it's true Roberto says you're cheap all the time, LOL. I am cheap. And they say, I'm on the fence about Runyon Jr. Hopefully he's solid for us because we need it in the worst way. So Runyon is a great pass blocker. You know, I think he was ranked like number 9th in amongst guards in the NFL or something like that.
It was up there. It was really up there.
Like, as far as pass rush win rate and stuff like that, as far as how good he was at stopping pass rushers. So he's going to be fine there. He just sucks against the run. And we may talk about it at some point. We really haven't talked about it too much, but I really think you're to see the Giants passing the ball to running backs almost as much as they're throwing the ball this year. I really do. You get Tyrone Tracy in the draft, who was a former wide receiver. You'll go get the New Orleans Saints running backs coach. We all saw what happened, obviously, with Kamara and all there. So not that I'm saying, Tyrone Tracy is Kamara. He's not. Maybe he develops into that. Who knows? It's doubtful, but I'll play both sides of that coin. Like I always say, ceiling, floor. But
listen, Tracy, if he turns to
Alvin Kamara, I'll be very happy. Minus hopefully the gun charges or whatever that Kamara got in trouble with. That'd be nice just to leave that part of it out.
Yeah. Well, it's New Orleans.
Wink was awful. He had Kayvon dropping back in the flats way too much. 100% agreed. 1,000% agreed. 1 million times agreed.
I say 3,000%.
525,600 times agreed. John says if Burns gets going, then ribs. I think we mean Tibbs. Ribs. Then Sexy Dexy. Then Aziz. Look
out. Me all hungry.
Oh yeah, 100%. He says Tibbs, not ribs.
You gotta be all excited.
No, I want some ribs now. Devin says, thank you for the great content. Listen, don't you give us expectations we cannot keep up with.
Yeah. Stop that right now.
And I'm sorry, I'm gonna say Walker because I know how to pronounce your last. I just feel bad when I mispronounce people's first names. Like my wife's first name gets botched everywhere we go, and I get mad for her. She's like, I don't care, I'm used to it. I get mad for her. I'm like, no, that's not your name, damn it. So anyway, it says
she's got a very hard name to pronounce. I was gonna say
she does, like, if you've never seen it before, but once you hear it once, it should make sense. So anyway, says the thing about both is Patrick Mahomes got a 10-year deal, and yes, and also we alluded to before about getting paid, way ahead of time. It's a different thing, when he got paid. What I think Mahomes was 3 years ago was he got paid, or 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
So it says I knew it's a couple of years ago. So, and then Vengeance CNS says hi.
Hey,
how are you? How are you, Vengeance CNS?
We are Ducky. My social security number is.
Her name is Vengeance. John says Odell was nice too till he made that catch. So wait and see. I know Odell was cocky right off the bat, guys. 100%.
Yeah.
He didn't get the attention when they first drafted him because there was hype, but not the hype that like Neighbors has. There's a difference between, what was he, the 14th overall pick, I think, Odell? I can look it up, but it's a big difference between that and the 6th overall pick. It's not that much of a difference looking back on it now, but at the time, that was a big thing. He was the 12th overall pick. So there's still a difference. He was like the 3rd or 4th receiver taken in that draft, whereas Neighbors was the second and was right there with, Harrison as far as who people thought was the best one, And then Walker says that Daniel Jones comment was the most overblown BS ever. You know what? Here's the problem with that, though. When you're evaluating talent and you don't necessarily have a lot of public comments, and keep in mind, media guys and stuff like that, like even content creators like Rob and I, we don't get a chance to talk to these guys. I wish we did. They're more than happy to have them on the show at that point. Don't get me wrong. But
so Neighbors, you want to come on?
Sign us up right now. We'll do it whenever you want. Even if it's 3:00 in the morning, we don't care. But I feel like we overblow things to a certain degree because we have a small amount of things to analyze, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So, right or wrong, you're gonna, because it was a mistake. But you can also say it's a mistake and not say he's obviously a horrible person or go too crazy at that point there. And when it happened, a lot of us, including myself, went a little crazy because we all have this fear of receivers that are divas and go a little crazy and have all kinds of crazy, issues at that point there. We dealt with it with OBJ. We've seen it with, Diggs in Minnesota, then Buffalo, and now, we'll find out what happens in Houston. We see it everywhere. I just don't want to deal with issues with diva wide receivers anymore. I just don't. And if he's a diva, then I'm going to have issues with him when he is a diva and has those moments. And if he's not, and he's as good as I think he is, I'm going to be very happy to have him on the team at that point. We'll be singing his praises all year long. So John says it's just about money, not being a team player. Loving being there, being a New York Giant. Yeah, well, it's hard to love it the way we've been playing lately, John, in all fairness. It really is. Like, I'm not trying to be a jerk about it. Like, we're all suffering together, but that's the truth. Devin says, yes, kids, not children. Kids is a term of endearment. I just feel bad. Like, they are adults. Like, they are, obviously, they're over the age of 18. They're playing the NFL. I've just reached that point in my life where I'm like, I remember what stupid things I did in my early 20s. And I'm, like, old enough to be at least the youngest coming out at the draft. I'm, like, old enough to be their dad at this point, basically, at 42.
So old. What did you say?
I really am. I mean, think about it. Like 42. Like I've been able to legally drink for half my life. Scary.
Touche.
That means I've been illegally drinking and legally drinking for more than half. John says it's so rehearsed now. Soft way of talking, no real talk. It's rehearsed. It's so boring. Just like shows talking about the same poop day in, day out. There's 32 teams now. How many different players? Yeah, I get it. I get it, though. Like I said, you don't have to treat people like dirt, though, to get results. And that's part of the thing, because I'm assuming you start about the old school coaching ways. Just doesn't have to be there. You can treat people with respect and still get. Now, some people you kind of got to little dig into and treat them like jerks to get a result. I hate to say it. Like anybody who works in management knows that different people respond different ways.
100%. Some people have to walk on eggshells on. Some people you have to walk on.
Yeah. You know, and then some people you have to sit down and watch Dewey Cox walk hard song. That movie at that point there. I wrote my own joke there. It's a good movie. It's a good movie. Though. It was a good movie.
You ever watch the line?
No, you ever watched that?
Yeah, like 15 years ago when it came
out. There's a really funny song in there called "Let's Duet." Just saying, if you haven't heard it before, feel free to YouTube it. Yes, you may think it's a singing duet, but it's double entendres left and right, triple entendres, quadruple entendres. Devin says it was two old men arguing at the family barbecue over when to flip the burgers. I feel like I missed something. What was two old men? That's part of the problem with doing all the comments at once. We have like so many comments, things we talked about there. John says Tibbs breaks those ribs on the QBs. He does, and then he does snow angels afterwards. And then Devin says, remember when OBGYN got into several fights in his second year and not one teammate came to defend him? That told me a lot. You know what? Honestly, I remember people saying good things about him. I remember people in the media even saying good things about what teammates said about him. I don't think he was. It's okay. I'm trying to word this correctly. And that's not usually my strong suit because I'm kind of blunt by nature. There's two types of jerks. Selfish jerks who basically kind of don't care in any way, shape, or form who they affect in life. And there's accidental jerks that just kind of do things because they're wired differently. And they don't recognize how the rest of the world works, if that makes sense. And I do think that is the category that OBJ. I think he's an accidental jerk. Like, you don't just start fighting with the kicking net on the sideline. I'm sorry, that's just not a normal thing to do. Like, that's not the jerk move. That's the accidental jerk move. He's just wired different. Good or bad. Probably good in some ways, probably bad in others. Same as I have my ADD superpowers. But it also screws me up sometimes. That's life. So.
That's life.
That's life.
That's life.
All right, guys. All right. We're going to call it a night here, guys. I appreciate you guys on there and all the comments. We had a lot of comments today. Definitely appreciate it, guys. So we're going to be back again. Like I said, we're back Wednesday and Thursday for you guys. I'm not going to announce the usual time because, guys, we might have to change things up. So we got fireworks.
It's a holiday.
It's a holiday. I can tell you this. Thursday will probably definitely be an earlier than usual episode, like early afternoon kind of thing at that point there. So keep an eye out for that. We're still figuring out what to do Wednesday because one of us has plans tomorrow. One of us has plans Wednesday. We're trying to figure out all this stuff because, again, we always give you at least 3 shows a week. I don't give a damn what's going on. We find a way to do it. So Rob and I have literally recorded the shows before at 3 o'clock in the morning. Remember the one time you had to work crazy hours and I woke up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and we did we did like a show on like, I think it was like a preview episode the very first season we were doing this.
Yeah, it was definitely like I had to work till like 2 o'clock in the morning, but be back at work at 11 o'clock in the morning. And then you had to be up for work at 5:30, and we decided to meet in the middle.
Yes. We always figure it out. We always figure it out. That's 2 things we always do. We always figure it out, and whenever we say it's going to be a short episode, we're wrong. Because Rob and I going into this one, it'll be like an hour show. Here we are, an hour to 45 minutes in. So, it happens, guys. Listen, we love just, talking Giants with you guys there. Definitely appreciate you guys for being on. Again, like I said, keep an eye out. We will go ahead and post it as soon as we figure out exactly what times we're doing stuff there. So keep an eye there. Of course, the best way to find out we go live is hit subscribe. YouTube, hit that bell. But subscribe everywhere. I'm telling you, when we go live, my phone goes nuts.
Yeah.
Like my LinkedIn goes off, which is funny because it's on my LinkedIn, not my personal LinkedIn, even it's on. My LinkedIn goes off, my Twitter goes off, my YouTube goes off, my Facebook goes off. All of them go off because we're live on all those. It's almost
guys,
like
really
just a new, unique way to tell you where we're live.
Yeah, guys, it really helps the show out too. So we would really appreciate it.
But it's also, like I said, it's the best way if you really want to watch all the shows, and we have crazy hours sometimes occasionally. That's the best way to find it. So again, we're live on all those platforms that I just mentioned. I know Rob loves talking about my LinkedIn profile. He just loves it.
It's the best.
And of course, we're available always the next day on all the audio podcast platforms. So Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, all the big ones there. Hit subscribe and everything, guys. Subscribe away. Subscribe everywhere you possibly can. Just helps us out so much. We definitely appreciate you guys there. Again, appreciate you guys if you're on YouTube, guys, hit that little thumbs up button too. That's a big help for us as well there. So I know we have a lot of ask. We're very needy. We are so needy. Trust me.
Needy.
It could be worse. Imagine how bad you must feel for my wife, considering how needy I am right now. Who was nice enough to make me dinner and everything when I first got home and everything. Because by the way, guys, we'll let you know when it's going to be going live, but we should talk about that as well real quick. Mention at least we helped with Bobby Skinner of Talking Giants there shoot a segment for their show next week as well. So we'll let you guys know more on the time and date for that when that comes on there. But that's another great show. I think it's like the most popular Giants podcast in all of podcasts.
Pretty sure.
I don't know what the proper term is, so we're going to call it podcast land.
It's definitely podcast land.
Yeah, I think that is the proper term. So yeah, we were on that today and shot that for a segment that's going to be on next week there. So we'll let you guys know there. So appreciate you guys listening as always, and as always, Giant fans.
Go to
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.